everybody, this is Patrick from Sasquatch in the Wild, and here you're looking at Jim. We're trying to figure out where to go camping. This is going to be one of probably 2, maybe 3 more videos that are going to be like this, like a slideshow. I'm going to show you different spots, but I'm going to go into detail of these different spots that we're going to. Jim and I were both driving around trying to find a spot. He was leading the way and I was behind him trying to figure out where we were going to go. And we eventually find a camping spot. There shows a little bit of a burn scar that happened here in Colorado not too long ago. I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago we had this fire, and once the burning is done, the grass comes back. Not all forest fires are bad for the environment, but not all forest fires are good either. We have what's called slasher piles that the Forestry Service likes to leave out in the wilderness, and Jim and I, or Leah Marshall, Janice, and myself have found these things in random areas, and they're usually scattered all over the forest floor. These are big piles of timber that the Forestry Service cuts down and they leave there, and they're supposed to go in, from what I understand, is go in and take it all out and do something with that wood. Either donate it to the locals or take it somewhere to be processed. But like the big fire we had that started in Granby and found its way all the way to Estes Park, a lot of those fires, if you watch the videos on those again and you see what looks like a tornado spinning off of an area, that is most likely from one of those, it looks like a giant thick filled teepee structure, except it's completely filled full of wood, and it's what I call a slasher pile. A slasher pile can be 14 feet in diameter, which is the size of my tent, and about 9 feet tall, which is also the height of my tent. If it's a good fire, then all those trees wouldn't have been burnt up. But since the fire wasn't well managed, those trees burnt up. These 2 rocks are kind of interesting. I think they're poised to fall. I think they're poised to roll off this little mountain here and create one hell of a horrible stir. This rock right here I thought was ready to go until I noticed something. When I zoom in on it, looks like it's got a smiley face and an eyeball. But this rock has a little wedge cut right here, and that wedge is being propped up by other things, other rocks and stuff that are in here. So unless something breaks this free, that boulder probably is not going to come down. On the flip side, this boulder I think is poised to go. I think if there's enough of erosion that happens underneath this guy, he's going to roll. And if he does roll, he's going to go one of 3 places. He's either going to roll straight down and hit that rock, or unlodge it, in which case we may have 2 boulders rolling down a mountain. Or this rock will roll to the reverse side of this mountain, or could potentially come down this way. This way and this way will hit a road, a major thoroughfare. If this rock becomes unlodged, I am pretty sure there is a house somewhere down here, and I can't remember if there is or isn't. But these 2 suckers, I think maybe in 10 to 20 years are going to find their way off that rock. These rocks were deposited when there was probably during the last ice age, or when we had a big ice sheet move through. that's how these rocks got here. I've often wondered how these boulders just find their way to random locations like this, and that's the most likely answer, is that they were sliding along with the ice and they just got stuck. And these guys over here, I think, are just part of the formation of the land. But this rock and this rock don't quite fit. This one doesn't quite fit either, or that little one there. I think this is funny. This looks like a huge face looking out at people. It's really kind of freaky looking. Looks like there's your eye, there's your other eye, your nose, a sinister smile, you know. How you doing, boys? Or here's Johnny. This is going to be our campsite. When we pulled into this spot, it was a pretty big campsite. There is a hill that's back here. It goes way up here and comes back down. And all these shrubs here, I wanted to walk across this and go up that hill, but we never got around to it because we ended up going to 2 other different locations. But this is where we had our base camp. It was just Jim and myself. So whoever was here before us left us 2 chairs to kick back in. I don't think we ever sat in these. I think we just brought out our camp chairs and moved these things off to the side. But this is our campsite. So this is Jim. I think that's Jim. Maybe that's me, but I think that's Jim. Oh, I'm pretty sure that's Jim. I don't have that coat. A lot of times I'll take photographs and I'll just set the camera and it will just take random photographs of areas to kind of document what's going on. And we ended up sleeping in the same tent. My cot was on this side and his cot was over here. Now his tent is, I think, about 5.5 feet to 6 feet in height, and I think it's about 6 feet wide, just enough. Like my cot is like right here, his cot is over here, but I think his cot extends out just a little bit. My cot probably extends out a little bit. And when you go into the tent on the reverse side, imagine a big door here. The zipper goes like this, right? So it's like a big C shape or a reverse C. So imagine this is where my cot is and this is where his is. So we ended up spending, we were there I think 1 or 2 nights. And the first night, that's when all the crazy action happened. But the first time through this, it was probably about, I want to say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Jim was in a deep sleep. I woke up, oh my God, I have to pee. So I got up quickly and I got to the, I just had to slip my shoes on, ran over to the door and I tried to unzip it. Now remember, his cot is right here. His cot is pressed up against this tent and the door. So I'm trying to unzip it from the bottom of the tent up. And because the door goes like this, I could not get it past the top of his cot. It was pushed up against it. I couldn't free it. So I just decided to unzip it from wherever the beginning was up to that spot. And then I had to crawl out through this little tiny crawl space here. And I got out and I ran over to, it was, I want to say it was this tree. And even though it looks close, this tree was about 30 feet away from our tent. And I just said, okay, that's, I had to go to the bathroom. So of course I'm over there on this tree, watering this tree, and within about 20 seconds, there was the loudest wood knock that I've ever experienced. It happened. It was like this crazy sound, and man, I shot out of my skin. Of course, I peed everywhere other than the tree. And the first things out of my mouth were, "What are you doing? Are you insane? What the hell's wrong with you?" I started yelling at this into the trees. So wherever this individual was somewhere between, say, this area and up to about this spot of the trees. And there is an area that drops down. It kind of goes over an edge and into this little valley type thing where all these trees are laid out and they all go down in a row. And I was yelling into these trees, you know, at whoever this was that did the knock. Well, Jim woke up to the knock, and so he automatically had to go to the bathroom. So he gets up and he puts his shoes on. He fights his way to get out of his own tent, comes out to where I'm at, and he sees me yelling into these trees. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I said, "Did you hear the wood knock?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I'm over here taking a leak on this tree, and I hear a loud wood knock, and it scares me out of my skin." And he's like, "Oh my God." So we're both laughing about it. He's somewhere, I think he's down here by one of these other trees, and we're just like talking back and forth about this. So I get done, he gets done, and he said, "Where was that?" And I said, "It was down here in this little ravine." And I went down a little bit, looked down. Now there was a little bit of a moon in the sky, and just casting enough light that there was light in the area, like ambient light. And I was like, I looked down there, I saw nothing. And so we both came back up, we both went into the tent. And I'm laying there. Now Jim, I'm thinking he's still awake. We get in, we're kind of talking for a little bit, and he pulls this heavy cover. He sleeps with this crazy heavy cover that really keeps him warm underneath this weighted blanket type deal. And I'm just in my sleeping bag. Well, I start to hear something walking from down in these trees up, and it goes all the way out, and it ends up going to this area of the road. So I get up and I start to look to see if I can see where this is at. And I can't see where this individual is, but I can hear them out there. And I start to hear this vocal, and this vocal sounds like this. Ooh. Now I've heard that audio before, and I heard it once with the BFRO, and I've heard it 2 other times at 2 different campsites. One was at Site A, and one was at a totally different campsite down. It was down where Junior is. And if you haven't seen those videos to Junior, I will post them in here, and you can go back and you can watch those videos because they're kind of funny. That's where Mike and I get literally picked up off the ground and shaken around like a ketchup bottle by a juvenile Sasquatch. They're a lot stronger than you may think. So that sound, the BFRO could never figure out what was actually causing that sound or creating it. They figured it was a Sasquatch. What I figured out is that it's a female, and the female is calling for its child to hurry up and let's go, kid, let's go. So right after I heard that vocal, I hear what sounds like a young kid running out from these trees all the way over to where Mom is. And by this time I'm standing up in the tent and I'm looking out to try to see where this is. And I can't see because of the positioning in trees. I couldn't see where it was crossing the road. And I heard 4 distinctive steps walking across, not the kid. So I figured she must have picked up the kid, carried the kid across the road, put the kid back down, because once that kid was on the opposite side of the road, I could hear him take off running up the hill. She was taking like stride steps going up that hill. And again, I couldn't see her at that. Once she was past a certain point, I couldn't see anymore. And that area where I showed before, this area back here, they ended up going up this direction and they disappeared. Like they went off into this area. But I heard this loud, what sounded like a drum sound back in here. Now, there was no campsites back in here. I never saw camping or dispersed camping back over on this side. It was all on this side of the road, not on that side. I think there is camping further way down this road, but on that side, but I didn't see anything really. But she and the kid both went up and disappeared back up in here, and after they were gone, they were gone. I didn't hear them anymore. So I said, Jim, and he said, he woke up and goes, yeah. And I said, did you hear that vocal? And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, were you asleep? And he goes, I was asleep. I was like, oh no. And he had missed that vocal. Again, he has the best luck or the worst luck of never actually hearing. I'm trying to adjust the camera here. Hearing certain things that happen at night. I don't think I adjusted that very well. It looks like it's all crooked. Try not to get that any more crooked than it could be. So we decided when we got up the next morning, we had breakfast and everything, and he was up here at camp. I went over the edge, over this edge, and I started to explore, and I brought my camera with me. So that's my vehicle. This is the area I really thought it would be a good idea to camp to, but there was some type of blockage that was from here over, and I think it's from the Park Service, so you couldn't camp back in here. Even though this would have been one hell of a camping spot, way back away from everybody. We did have a little bird visit us. This is I think it's like a blue jay. The blue jays I'm used to in Nebraska don't look like this. But we started throwing out pieces of donut to him, and his eyes were a lot more bigger than what I think he could think that he could actually carry this. I don't think you can swallow that. But he tried, and he dropped a piece. And he decided, no, I'll come back for more. And he ended up coming back numerous times for more pieces of donut. So I went over the hill and I came across this structure, and this is a very strange event. So these two trees I don't believe were touching, but I don't remember if they were or weren't. But the oddity is this. Now, trees can fall any direction, and you'll find random trees in any forest. But you don't usually find trees that are usually stacked on top of each other or forming an L shape, going around another tree, having another tree touch that tree on the other side, or having a tree here reach up and touch the end of that tree, which goes over in between two other trees. And these are stacked, by the way. These are two trees that were brought in. There were no trunks that I could find that were associated really with any of the trees that you see before you. This long tree right here was literally sitting on top of this, and I thought that was weird. It was really strange to see that thing sitting on top of that. But all these things are all touching. The ends are touching the opposite end. So if this is one branch or one tree and there's a second trunk coming off of it, they all were touching end to end, which was very strange. This is another view of that. This is a tree break. Not only was it a break, but this part of the tree was ripped off, and this part of the tree healed. So sometimes when pine trees or deciduous trees get the tops removed off, no one can explain how they do it, but they apparently rip off the top of the tree and they walk off with that top of the tree, kind of like a Charlie Brown Christmas. This part of the tree was removed, and it looked like it had healed a little bit, because when I was looking at it closer, it looked like it had rounded itself off. But this wasn't a person cutting it or a person hacking at it. This tree literally had little splinters going straight up, and they had a lot of sap around them, like the tree was healing itself. If you're ever out and about and you find arches, now these are crazy arches. At first I thought this was a snow load, and I don't think it is. I think the way this works is you have too many things happening. You have this tree coming in, you have these other four trees twisting around each other, coming in, and they're all making a knot right here. This tree that's closest to me, oops, back up. The trunk is right here, and it extends all the way up, and it's holding down all these trees in one spot. But this tree goes up and around, and it goes through that center. All these other 4 trees are all doing the same thing. And whatever did this, like I said, I don't think it's snow load. Snow load usually doesn't tie knots. Wind can tie knots with trees, because I discovered that within the garden center. And but the only other thing that can do this is Sasquatch. People can do arches on deciduous trees. I've seen it done on TV, and it's not good for the trees. It will actually kill the tree. And over time, all of these pole pines that are here will all die, and they'll drop their needles, and this will be a form of Sasquatch structure waiting to be rediscovered. It's another view of that. Sometimes arches are held down by another tree that is either brought in. This tree was actually brought in and laid down. There was no stump for this tree when I found it, so it was stump free, literally. But it was sitting on top of this other pole pine, and this pole pine died eventually. These other pole pines, this is that long trunk that goes across, goes up and over. These other pole pines here will eventually die as well. And that's an up close version of that. These are trees that are kind of laid out in a line. So this is the top of the tree. Here's the trunk, or the stump part of it, the root ball. The other root ball is right here, and there's another tree kind of extending out from that, kind of touching the end of this. And then we have another tree here doing the exact same thing, which is crossing over another log. And if this symbolizes something, I'm not sure really what that would be. At least not yet, anyway. This is going to be the end of this video. I will record another video right now, and I will have that one ready for Wednesday. If I have enough space, I will do a 3rd video, or a 4th video, depending on how you look at it, and release that one on Sunday, and just put that one into queue. My name is Patrick. This is Sasquatch in the Wild, and I hope you're enjoying the journey. I will talk to you soon.